She's ready, the lady.
Okay. And what do we do here? Okay, and we on the top already? Are we there? This is gonna be our pay Aleph Amud Aleph. Okay, let's get it bigger. Okay, so the Mishnah had said that the share for eating is a koseves, and the share for drinking is a malol. And the Mishnah said that if somebody ate and drank, so they're not mistarif. It means if you ate less than a share of food and less than a share of drinking, so it's not mistarif. Just to point out the practical application of that, it's not only the evidence if somebody did it, is or not, but when people eat shiurim, like a sick person that he has to eat and drink, so they make intervals that it should be enough of a space between less than a share of a koseves, and then he eats again, whatever the amount of time would be, then he eats another less than a koseves. But they'd be allowed to eat and drink. You could eat less, you don't have to care about that. You could eat less than a share of a koseves and drink less than a malol lugmov, and then wait another share, another interval. But the eating and drinking is not mistarif. So it has a much practical application also. So that was the mission of the shows aim mistarfin. And the Gemara thinks that it might be dependent on a machlokes. Maybe it's not so simple. Why is it not mistarif? First, the Gemara is going to entertain the possibility. The reason why it's not mistarif is because the share is different. It means the share of eating is koseves, the share of drinking is malol lugmov. Since it doesn't have a common share, so that's the reason why they're not mistarif. But there are some shittas that hold that even if it doesn't have a common share, still they're mitzarif. So maybe eating and drinking will be mitzarif. Montana, who is the author of our Mishnah, says that eating and drinking is not mitzarif. Rav Chisda Rabbi Yeshua. It only goes according to Rabbi Yeshua. It will be Taka Machlokes. Not everybody would agree. Only Rabbi Yeshua would say this. The Tanan and Mishnah. Here that's talking about which kind of tooth. It's talking about tumah over there. Different things that are matame. And you have, let's say, tumas meis, tumas navela, tumas sheretz. So Rashi points out all this, that there are different shiurim. How much is a kazayis navela, kazayis menames? But let's say a sheretz, a tame with a different shiur, kadasha, and then you have the severity of the tumah. The severity is sometimes it's tumas shiva, sometimes it's 7 days tame, like by mace, and but nevela and sheretz are only a 1 day tame. Goes to the mikveh the same day, and you get at night is ready tor. So that's called different levels of tumah, and there's also different shiurim. So here, Klalam Rabbi Yeshua, Kosher Tumas of Yeshua, Shavim Mitzarif. If they're similar, both in the severity of the tumah and also in the shiur, they have a similar shiur, so then Mitzarif. Then the two kinds of tumah will be Mitzarif. If you have a half a share of one, half a share of another one. But Tumas below shiur, shiur below Tumas, Tumas below shiur. But if it doesn't have both similarities, only one without the other, or the other without the first, or neither, only the severity of the tumah is the same, but they're not similar in the shear, or they're similar in the shear, but they're not similar in the severity of the tumah. And surely, if it's not similar in either, no tumas below shiur. I'm just getting a little smaller. I'm sorry. Get it smaller over here. But over there, the other Tana argues in Rabbi Yeshua. The other Tana says that even if it's not similar in every way, it also is misnari. So our mission that says the fact that they don't, both of them are chayiv kares, let's say, by us, not to eat, not to drink, both of them are chayiv kares, but they have a different shear. So Yeshua is good that he says that tumas below shiro, that even if it has the same severity, but the shear is different, so it's not misnari. But if you are going to Yeshua, so then maybe it is misnari. But the more it says, that was a Christus.
Liquids could also be made tumah.
What is that?
A liquid.
Liquid, yeah, but it's not the subject over here. That's not the subject. Liquid, there are liquids that are tummy also. Depend. It could become. You're talking about liquids to become tummy would be that it's a very that can receive tumah. But here's talking about here's talking about a mace, nevela, sheretz, the things that are giving off the tumah, the things that are be'etzem tummy. So the shear is different sometimes, and the severity of the tumah is different. You're talking about tumas ochlin. Tumas mashkin, they also become tummy also, but that's a different subject. So here the Gemara thought the reason why the food and the drink are not mitzvah is only according to Yeshua that says that since it has a different shiur, it's not mitzvah. But the ones arguing with Yeshua, they say even if it has a different shiur, it's still mitzvah. So maybe the food eating and the drinking would be mitzvah. That's what Rav Chisda holds. Rav Chisda said it's only according to Yeshua. First white line, that no, even the Rabbanan who are arguing with Yeshua will agree over here that the food and the drink are not mitzvah because ad kan lekam rabbanan hasam el linyan tumah the same tumah chadi aval hacham mishum yisubei daita hu v'hai lo mi'esva daita. Same thing we said yesterday 10 times, that some things have to do with the facts. That in Kippur, the whole point is Inui, that he should be afflicted. And it depends which things afflict him, which things don't. Happens to be, the more I was telling you, the facts are that when a person eats less than the share and drinks less than the share, he still is afflicted. So it doesn't have to do with halachic considerations, what's considered combinations. Here, it's a physical fact that it doesn't give Misha Badas. So by Tumah, that's not, the subject is only, are they considered similar? So Shem Tumah, Achasi, both of them, if they're both Tumah, even if it has different shiurim, it still could be the same thing as combined. But over here, it depends on the physical fact. Does the person get satisfied or at least unafflicted for the fact that he would have less than a share of drink, less than a share of food? So that, and I think that it passes like Rabbi Yeshua anyway, I think, but the more saying that it wouldn't be dependent on Rabbi Yeshua, even if you hold like the opponents of Rabbi Yeshua here also, the eating and the drinking on Amos Tarif. And the Gemara says the same thing. The same way there's Machlokes of Chizda and of Nachman, there's also Machlokes about this, about Rish Lakish and who's that? V'chein Rish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan. V'chein Amar Rish Lakish, Machlokes Nuya Rabbi Yeshua, that Nan Kalam Rabbi Yeshua, etc. Rish Lakish says like Rabbi Yochanan, says like Rav Chizda, that this Mishnah says that the food and the drink on Amos Tarif only goes according to Rabbi Yeshua, but Rabbi Yochanan Amar, like Rav Nachman, Afil L'Tei Rabbanan. They also will agree here that the food and the drink are not mistarik. Word for word what the Gemara said before, that here there's the physical svara, the physical facts. If when a person eats less than the share and drinks less than the share, he doesn't have yishuv adas, so it's still full afflicted. So that's the halacha.
Therefore, he's
He's
not chayiv.
not chayiv. We just mentioned before that.
It's a sur, but it's not.
Right. We just mentioned also that has applications even not only for the isur, that when a person is but not only for the Ptor, even for the Isser, when a person is sick and they have to have less than the share, so you don't have to separate K'dei Achilas Pras between eating and drinking. You could eat less than a share and drink less than a share, and then wait the interval and then do it again, because then I'm starving. That's the end of that sugya. Next Mishnah. If somebody ate and drank in one forgetting, so he's only chayv one korban chatas. Either one is chayv korban chatas. He ate a whole chair, he had a kaseves, and he also drank a lugma. He did the two averis, but he did it in one forgetting. So it's like the same avera twice. If he would have eaten two kosovos in the same forgetting, he forgot that it's in Kippur and he ate, so he's only chayv one because he ate and he ate. So eating and drinking is considered the same thing because Rashi says they learned out of the same pasuk. So so it's one avera. It's the same avera. If he would have done it in two forgettings, he forgot that that's in Kippur and he ate, and then he remembered that's in Kippur. Then he forgot again that it's in Kippur and he ate. Then he's two averos. But he did it behela mechad in one forgetting. So then eating and drinking is not considered two averos. But achal basa malacha chayev shtei chatos. But if he ate and did malacha, that's two separate averos. One is it says that be afflicted, and he didn't do that, so he's chayv koros for that. And with the shogig is chayv korban chatas, and he did malacha, two separate averos. So even though it was one forgetting, he forgot that it's from Kippur, and he ate and did malacha, so he's chayv two chatos, one for doing malacha, one for eating. A new point.
Are we in the Mishnah?
Yes. This is a new point about the issue of eating, the chiyuv of eating and drinking. That if something which is not edible or drinkable, so then it's not chayiv. So if he ate food which is not edible, or he drank liquids that are not drinkable, so he's potter. And the examples are tzir or moria. Tzir is brine. Yesterday we spoke about it also. But then we said that if we put it together with the Yerokos, so since it does go together, you add vegetables with some sauce, so the sauce is also mistari. But the sauce alone, the tzir, the brine alone, is not called roy l'shtia. Moria is also the same thing. I forgot. They said I think once upon a time, Binyamin once brought in Morias. They said what the name is called. I forgot what it is. They have it nowadays also. Very similar to Morias. It's also kind of a brine, fish brine. Yeah, it's a liquid brine. So
Rebbe,
yes, please.
yesterday we had a similar shiloh with achila gasa. Is it achila or not? With pater, lashon pater or not? I found a Tosfos Yeshanim, the last one on Daf Pei Amid Aleph, Pei Amid Beis. Very short. He says that there's two different kinds of achila gasa. One where it's Kitsei Nefesh would not be achila. One where it's just gasa but not Kitsei Nefesh would be considered achila. So he makes that chiluk.
Okay, Yashikov. It's all about drushes. All of the facts are not going to change too much, but the drush is going to, we're going to talk about. We'll find more information also. We always get more information, but the main thing is going to be what's highlighted over here. Where does it say any avera to eat? The Torah avera means a negative transgression. That it says do not. Usually when it says don't eat something, it says do not eat. Lo sochal. That's called. But here it says afflict yourself. It's a positive commandment. It's not a negative. It says. No, it doesn't say, like Yom Kippur doesn't say don't eat. It says 5 times you should be afflicted, but it doesn't say even 1 time do not eat. And we said the other day that it's a different shear altogether. Eating would be kazayis, and here affliction has to do with kosevas, but it doesn't say do not. So that's interesting that the Yom Kippur doesn't have a negative commandment, it only has a positive. And the Gemara is convinced that that's not a contradiction. The right for sure.
And what it is.
Well, it's a problem. You can have positive commandment. They have
No, I'm saying
248.
that it's not
Positive
so much what
commandment.
it is. You have to, the rabbis have to decide what that fiction is.
No, you're talking about something else. You're talking about what does affliction mean. We said it already. You had a whole sugi. What does affliction mean? You know
Once
that.
we've done that, it's the right.
You know that it's the rice. We're not the ones that rice. No, is it a negative or a positive? There are many positive commandments. It goes on and on. Yeshiva Oris, there's many. We have tefillin, we have tzitzis. There are many devices, but it's all a positive commandment. Yeah, the Gemara is convinced that Yom Kippur, besides being a positive commandment to afflict yourself, it's also a negative commandment. And the Gemara is, yes, but it doesn't say do not eat.
What is a negative? It's not
Yes, but it doesn't say that. So the Gemara is looking, where is going to be the negative commandment? For some reason, the Gemara is convinced there is a negative commandment, and the Gemara is looking where is it? And that's going to be the whole sugi. We're going to have about 5 answers. Where's the negative commandment? But the question is, the Gemara doesn't say what's the difference. What's the difference if it's a positive commandment or a negative commandment? The Gemara doesn't tell us what's the difference.
Punishment is.
So with the punishments, what's the punishment?
Achila and shtia is both positive and negative?
Yeah. Eating and drinking go together. Eating is like I said before.
Isn't-
Yeah.
Is Korah against is only against a negative commandment?
What is that?
Is Korah only a punishment for a negative against a negative commandment?
Yeah, the Torah says openly that there's kores. There's no question it says kores. It happens to be that there are 2 famous positive commandments that are chayv kores. One is Pesach and Mila. If someone doesn't do the korban Pesach, it's a positive commandment, and he doesn't do it, so he's chayv kores. So a Mila, someone who didn't circumcise himself, he's chayv kores, even though it's a positive commandment. So we do find such a thing as kores without a negative commandment. And here the Torah says openly that there's kores. There's no question that there's kores. So would it be that the Torah only would have said kores if there's a negative commandment? Possibility. So maybe that's one. Maybe you're right that the Torah over here would have said a negative commandment, and we're looking for it. But it definitely is kores. It says openly. The other possibilities would be for a korban. Maybe it's only a korban on a negative commandment, or maybe there's only malchus on a negative commandment. If someone, we're going to come to him and say that he wants to eat, and we tell him if you're going to eat, you're going to be chayv malchus. So malchus is only on a negative commandment, not on a positive commandment. So the Gemara doesn't say openly what the whole subject is about, but those are the 3 issues we could talk about. Either kores, as Lev Yaakov said, which it says kores openly, but maybe it's only going to be according to the rules if there's also going to be a negative commandment. Also a korban, maybe it's only if there's a negative commandment. If he made a mistake and he ate by mistake, which we know there's a korban, it says chayv chatas, so it has to be that there's a negative commandment someplace out there, and maybe also for malchus, which the Gemara doesn't talk about. But I'm just saying the possibilities, what the issues might be, of why we're looking for a negative commandment. But that's the whole subject. Where is the negative commandment?
Why would a person get cars and makos?
Every chiyuv is always going to be besides Pesach and Mila is always malchus. And if Adam come, we give him malchus. Then it talks about chayv krisa shalok and niftu b'dei krisas, and it could be that if someone got malchus, then he's not going to get kores. He got punished already.
And it can be that he's going to.
So that's the sugya that it says kol chayv malchus, kol chayv krisa shaloku niftu b'dei krisas, and it might be a machlokus or not, but there is such a sheet that says once he got malchus, if he didn't get malchus, then he's going to be chayv kores, and Hashem takes care of that. Surely it's chayv kores, but maybe the malchus will take off if he got lashes. So this is the subject. Again, the Gemara doesn't say why we're interested in finding a negative commandment and just laying out the possibilities. And the Gemara has one question: if Shlakish is talking there, he's the first spokesman. Why does it not say a negative commandment by the midst of affliction? The first answer is he says Mishum Dalo Efsha, because it's technically not possible. The Torah couldn't find a way to say to afflict yourself in a negative way. The Torah couldn't find a expression to say afflict yourself in a negative commandment.
Because afflict means, you mean, because do not eat is not good enough, because we need 5 things.
The Gemara is going to say why do not eat wouldn't be a way of saying it. Like you said, what should it write? Let's just say don't eat. That would have meant don't eat olive. So this volume of an olive. And the Torah doesn't want to say that. The Torah wants to say don't eat a koseves, because we know what the Torah wants to say. Don't eat so much which will take away affliction. So the word achila wouldn't mean that. That wouldn't work. What should it say? Don't afflict yourself. On the contrary, you should afflict yourself. That would have been mashma. You can eat. Don't be afflicted. We don't want to say that. We want to say don't, but yes, afflict yourself. How do you say that? That's what Reish Lakish said. The reason why it's an osas is because it's technically not possible to say it in a negative commandment, but it is a negative commandment. So the Gemara is going to try to challenge that and say, I could find a way of saying it in a negative. If it would have said lo su'uneh, would that have been a way to express a lo saseh, to afflict yourself? The Gemara says no. On the contrary, it would have been mashma that do not afflict yourself. That would have been mashma, get up and eat. Lo su'uneh, that's a negative commandment. Yeah, but the negative commandment is that don't afflict yourself, eat. And that's not true. The Torah wants that you should not eat. So therefore, it's not possible to write it. How about that? If it would have said, Ishomer pen lo su'uneh, be careful lest you do not afflict yourself. How about that? That would have been a negative commandment. When it says Ishomer, there's a regular, when it says Ishomer, be careful, or pen, lest, those are terms also of a negative commandment, not only when it says lo, not only if it says do not. If it says be careful lest, these are also words. So if it says be careful lest you do not be afflicted. That's
the law is going on not afflicted.
Lo tuna, yeah, lo tuna means not being afflicted, but it says Hishomer pen lo tuna. Say all 4 words. It would have said Hishomer pen lo tuna. Be careful lest you are not afflicted. That would have been a negative commandment. But the Gemara says no. That would have been mashma too much. It would have been Hishomer and a pen. Well, each one alone would have been mashma, and each one alone couldn't have been written. Hishomer lo suna, pen lo suna. Also, the Gemara doesn't see it yet. We'll see one more line where the Gemara might deal with that. But if
Rebbe,
yes,
the way Rev Rosner learned this is that the negative lashon here is mashma more than 1 love, at least 2 loving.
I said Hishomer and pen.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
Hishomer and pen. That's what she says. So what have been
What's called
lave, negative commandments. For plural of lav. Lav is a negative commandment. Lave is plural. So in the fishi, too many. The fishi lulav, it would have been too many. So therefore, it's not possible to have written that. The Gemara still challenges it. Let us say, Ishomer v'mitzvahs inu. These 3 words. It should have said, be careful with the commandment of affliction. So you have the Ishomer, there's only one, and it's a negative commandment. Be careful with the commandment of inui. But the Gemara says, no, this also would not have been a negative commandment. In Cain, Ishomer the lav lav, Ishomer da say. When the Torah says, be careful about something negative, that's not to do something, so that's a negative commandment. The word Hishomer, be careful, does have a nuance of negativity, and don't do it. But if it says in the word Hishomer, be careful to do something, to be careful to do something, that's considered an asay. It doesn't make it into a los asay. It doesn't make it.
That wouldn't be enough.
That wouldn't have been enough. That would have been back to mitzvah asay again. We're looking for a los asay. To say Hishomer da asay. This brings down that there's a machlokes about this, but this Gemara says Hishomer da asay that Hishomer of a positive commandment is still a positive commandment. So he wouldn't have gained anything. So we're still back to Reish Lakish's point that it was technically impossible to write a negative commandment. Rashi still challenges it. He has a way how to write it in a negative form. Nichtov, it should have said, Al tasur min ha'inui. 4 words. Al tasur min ha'inui, do not veer from affliction. So we have the lo saseh, do not go away. Do not go away from being afflicted. So that you got it. We've invented a way that the Torah could have said it in a negative form, and it doesn't say it. So, kasha. That's not kasha. So Reish Lakish had a pshat, and Rashi has a kasha on it. That's the first try. So where's the negative commandment? Reish Lakish says it's impossible to write a negative commandment, and that's why he doesn't say it, but it is. And Rashi has a way. There's a way. So maybe Reish Lakish still has a bit, but the more has a kasha. Maybe it would have been.
Excuse me. The al tasur would only imply 1 love.
That would have been one love. It would have been do not veer from affliction.
Yeah. Okay.
That would have been one negative commandment. And Rashi seems to think it would have worked. So the kasha is back. Where does it say it? So now the Rav brings a brisa. The Tana of the brisa, the following brisa brings it from the following source. So we're going to get a lot of extra credit over here, big bonus, and we're not going to get to the answer until the wide lines, which is
7 lines.
yeah, pretty line down. So that's a preview of what we're going to talk about. There's a thing called Tosefes Malacha. Like Tosefes Shabbos is adding on to Shabbos before and after, not to do Malacha by Tilshki, or not to stop right after Tzesek Kachavim Matzah Shabbos, to add on, to expand the day. There's also by Yom Kippur. We talk about Yom Kippur also, that you're not supposed to do Malacha before and after, not only by the day itself. You're supposed to also add on the beginning and add on at the night and the end. Also Inui, Tosefes Inui, that you're not supposed to eat till the last second. There's a mitzvah to add on before and also after, to extend the day a little bit before and also at the end.
But we don't hold that on the Yom Kippur. We don't hold it on all the other days, or we do
The Gemara is going to talk about Shabbos, Yom Tov, and Kippur. The Gemara is going to talk about everything. The Gemara talks about Shabbos, Yom Tov, and the Gemara today will be speaking about Shabbos, Yom Tov, and Yom Kippur as far as Malacha goes, and also Yom Kippur as far as Inui, that we talk about Tosefes Inui also. So this brayso so far is going to say that there's no negative commandment about affliction, Inui, there's no negative commandment to add on to the day, and also no negative commandment as far as doing Malacha before and after. And then the brayso eventually is going to get how about the day itself. But the first 8, 9 lines here, he's going to talk about, is there a negative commandment not to do Malacha before and after Yom Kippur, means the extension part. Is there a negative commandment about it? And also as far as Inui, Tosefes Inui, and it's going to say there's no chorus and there's no negative commandment. And then eventually we're going to get to the actual day of Yom Kippur itself, the 24-hour period of Yom Kippur. Is there going to be a negative commandment about the Inui, the affliction, which is our subject? That it doesn't say a negative commandment about the mitzvah of affliction. So we have a big bonus over here. So it's the top line on the screen. The Tana of the Tana of the brayso brings it from the following source. It says in the pasuk, it says you should afflict yourselves and you should not do any malacha. That's 2 mitzvahs goes like Yom Kippur. You might think that there's a punishment of kares even for the extra time of the malacha tosefes. That means before. Whatever it means, how much is tosefes? Something, whatever, 10 minutes, whatever it might be, 5 minutes, 10 minutes before Yom Kippur starts, and after Yom Kippur is over, he's supposed to continue, he's supposed to expand it and not do malacha the whole time. You might think there's a chorus if someone did malacha at that time. No, Talmud Lama. And it says ba'avarati, then he's chayv chorus. Anybody that does malacha on this very day. So that term on this very day, that implies only on the very day is the chorus. There's only chorus for the actual day, but there's not chorus for the extension before and after. Okay, so we found out so far that there's no chorus for the expansion of Yom Kippur as far as malacha goes. Maybe there's no chorus if he does malacha on those extensions, but maybe there is chorus if he did not afflict himself. And he's supposed to, he says here that he's supposed to afflict himself before Yom Kippur and also after. He's supposed to start a little bit earlier and a little bit later. Is the chorus for that? No, also not. Again, it says chorus only on the Inui if he doesn't do it and the very day. And again, it's only chorus for the actual day. There's not chorus for the before and after.
First he talks about eating, and now he talks about chorus.
First he talks about malacha, then he talks about Inui. Inui means not eating. Inui means that he should be afflicted, not eating and drinking. Before I spoke about malacha, and now I spoke about Inui. Both of them, there's no chorus for the before and after. The brayso continues. Maybe there's no chorus, but there is a negative commandment. He transgressed the negative commandment. Let's say it's the get to Malchus. Let's say that he's chayv Malchus if he ate before and after. If he did malacha before and after, no, it's not even a negative commandment. Even by the commandment, not only by the chorus, even when it says do not, it also says be'etzem. A third time that it says the word be'etzem. Even when it says the commandment not to do malacha on Yom Kippur, it only says on the very day. And again, that the law, the losa says only on the actual day, not before and after. Okay, one more point, which everyone expects already according to the pattern. So we just spoke about malacha, but maybe on the eating before and after, not afflicting himself before and after Yom Kippur, maybe there's a negative commandment on that. That the answer is no. That we have a couple of homer to learn out that there's no negative commandment on the affliction before and after. Because if malacha there's not, then couple homer the affliction. which is more chomer. The Gemara looks at it, which is more severe, the isser to do malacha or if the necessity to afflict oneself on Yom Kippur. So it says malacha. We find that it's not only Yom Kippur; it's also Shabbos and Yom Tov. It's a general kind of an isser. So the Gemara thinks that if you see malacha, which applies to other times also, but here there's no negative commandment about the Tosefes, about the before and after. So Inui, which is only limited to Yom Kippur, Sheino. Oh, gotta make it smaller. I'm sorry about that. It's too small already, huh? Okay. Up. Too much. I'm sorry. Okay. Up. Okay, we'll try. But let's go to the top here. So surely, and period. And that if malacha, which is more general and more severe, that there's no negative commandment for doing malacha before and after. So kavachomer, the mitzvah binui, which is very limited, only Yom Kippur, the one looks at it like it's more lenient. So therefore, there's also not going to be any negative commandment before and after. All this was a bonus. We found out that there's no negative commandment and surely not any chorus, both for eating, for no affliction, and for doing malacha before and after, on the Tosefes. That's what we found out so far. It wasn't really our subject. We got a big bonus. And now we go to the subject. We don't even know that there's a negative commandment for the inui of the day. Of course, the malacha of it says perish, don't do malacha on this day. But does it say any negative commandment about the day itself? Day, I mean not day and night, but I mean the whole 24-hour period. Does it say any place a negative commandment about the mitzvah of inui, which was about the subject? That was our today's subject. Rish Lakish said of Shad because it couldn't say it. Now the Bryce is talking. So he says Minayin. How do you know it? The answer is second white line. La yomar onish b'malacha d'gama me'inui. The Gemara is going to make a drush now. Of course, it's not the regular way of talking. It's going to be a drush, but it says that the fact that it says kares by the Isra Malacha, it says if someone does Malacha Yom Kippur, he's chayv kares. The Gemara says that's extra. It didn't have to say it. We could have figured it out. We could have figured it out ourselves. Once the Torah says that there's a kares for affliction, for the non-affliction on Yom Kippur, so we'll figure out ourselves that surely there's going to be kares for malacha, because we know malacha is a more general avera. We find it by Shabbos and Yom Tov already. So if the Torah says that there's kares for inui, for the mitzvah of affliction, then there's surely kares for doing malacha. So why does it have to say it? Loma nemar. That's for a drasha. Mufna. That means it's open. It's an extra pasuk. Lahakish v'ladim memenik zera shava. Nema onesh b'inui, v'nema onesh b'malacha, ma malacha la'onesh elam ken hizir, af inui la'onesh elam ken hizir. By malacha, it does say both. By malacha, this is malacha of Yom Kippur, it says do not. And if you do this chayv kares, and now there's a gzer shava link to the inui. So just like over there, the Torah meant the punishment together with the lo saseh. So too, that links along a lo saseh to the mitzvah of inui also. So it doesn't say beferish do not.
What connects that?
The fact that it's an extra drasha, the mufta, the fact that it says onish by Yom Kippur,
Right.
that's the extra pasuk to say. It says by malach. By malach, it's extra pasuk of onish, and it says onish. It says the chorus. It says chorus here. It says chorus over there. It's kind of gzera shava, chorus and chorus. Both of them say chorus. It's maybe it's a hekish, maybe it's a gzera shava. Both of them have chorus, and it's like a kavah homer that the extra pasuk. The extra pasuk is going to teach us that azhara, the negative commandment, apply. You should link it on to the inoi also. That's the drasha.
Excuse me, what does mufna mean? Mufna?
Mufna means vacant. Vacant. That means when you have an extra pasuk that's not hasn't been used. It's an extra pasuk. That's panui. The word panui, that means
Oh, I see. Available, I would say.
available, right? Available, empty.
Mufna lahakish means it's
So that's
available
the-
to make a comparison.
Comparison. Then
Is that
right
right?
where it says Gzer Shava. So it does say Gzer Shava here. It says Hekish Gzer Shava. I'm not sure which one it is, but there's a connection here between the onish of them doing malacha, which over there says beferish that there's a negative commandment, to the onish of inui. And we're going to say that just like by the onish of malacha, there is also a negative commandment. Also by the punishment of chorus for inui, also link onto it also a negative commandment. So it doesn't say beferish any place do not. But we're just taking the do not, and it's like, even maybe it's like a theoretical do not, like I said before, those however you're going to word it, but whatever that's going to be, there's a link down that there's also the severity of a negative commandment. Whatever we spoke about, maybe it's for Malchus, maybe it's for Korban, maybe it's for Kores. So that's the Gemara's drasha. The Gemara continues We're on the, what is that, the fifth line? Ikal Mifrach. No, the Gemara's not happy with this Kal V'chomer. The Gemara says the whole thing is based on that if it would that the whole pasuk is extra. The whole pasuk of Kares by doing malach is extra because we would have known it from Inui. If Inui is chayv, if affliction is chayv Kares, so then surely doing malacha. Because why was there a svara? We started on the second wide line because it's not Shabbos Yom Tov. So the Issa malacha is more severe. But the Gemara sees another angle to it. Ikal Mifrach. We could what's the word Mifrach? Ikal Mifrach.
Question?
Yes, we can question that. The Gemara finds an aspect that the affliction is more severe than this of doing malacha, because by malacha, even though you're not allowed to do malacha, but there are exceptions to the rule. Rashi brings down that for Gavoa, for Karbonis, you're allowed to do malacha on Shabbos and Yom Tov for Karbonis, even though you're doing malacha. In the base of Mikdash, you're allowed to do it. And by Inui, there's no exception. When it says that you're not allowed to, one must afflict himself, there's no exception. Everyone must afflict. Of course, if someone's fatal, whatever, something that dangerous, that's not the subject. But otherwise, there's no exception of heter. There's no heter from the whole subject. There's no exception. So that's considered a severity to Inui. So why are you so convinced that if it would have said the negative, would have said the onish, the punishment of Kares, would have said it by Inui, we would have been able to make a Kal V'chomer that applies also to Malacha. That's not true. Maybe Malacha, how did I say it? That I said Malacha is more severe. No, maybe Inui is more severe because you find that Lohotem Mechlala. So the Gemara is not convinced about the svara of this mufna, that it's the extra pasuk. It's not extra. You need the pasuk to say that this covers by Malacha also. You wouldn't have been able to learn it out from the Kal V'chomer of Inui. Maybe Inui is more severe. So the Gemara is going to change the drasha. Ella lo yomer onish be'inui. The Gemara goes the other way. That it shouldn't have said kares by affliction. It should have just said kares by Isra Malacha. And I would have been able to learn out with the Kal V'chomer the opposite direction that Inui also surely is going to be chayv kares if somebody transgresses that affliction. The Gemara of Malacha, I could have learned it out from Malacha. Even if it wouldn't have said that there's a chayv kares, if someone doesn't afflict himself on Yom Kippur, I would have known it from Malacha. With the opposite, you just told me that Tushim Machlala is a severity. That Malacha, this Malacha has exceptions to it, so it's not so severe. And that's Amish Kares. So So the mitzvah of affliction is more severe because it doesn't have any exception. So surely it's going to be Chayv Kares. So why does it have to say the ownership of Kares by Inui, by affliction? It must be for this extra drasha to make this Gzera Shavah Hekesh over here to tell you that the ownership of affliction surely has also a negative commandment also. Lakish v'lodin imena Gzera Shavah, the same as before. Nama onish b'Inui, nama onish b'Malacha. It says the cover is both by affliction and by this of Malacha. Ma Malacha onish v'Hizir, Inui onish v'Hizir. Just like over there, there's also a negative commandment also over here. But the Gemara's not happy with that also because the Gemara flips it back. It means either way, these two svaras, either way it goes. It means Yom Kippur has a severity that it's not no exception, that it also applies to Shabbos and Yom Tov. And Inui has a severity because it has no exception. So either way, you don't know which one is more chamor. So both of them have a chomer. So there's nothing extra. It has to say onish by Malacha. It has to say onish by Inui. So the more is unhappy with this whole drasha. So Ravina is going to explain the brisa. Tana esem gomer. This Tana, it's true you have a pircha, but once it's a Gzera Shavah, both of them it says be'etzem hayom hazeh. It says don't do malacha on this very day. It says one should afflict himself on this very day. The etzem, those words that says be'etzem hayom hazeh, that's going to be Gzera Shavah, and it's mufna, and it's available. It's extra word, extra drush over there. Because if not for the fact that it's a mufna, there's a difference in the laws of Gzera Shavah. When you make this Gzera Shavah, if it's not extra, you still can have a Gzera Shavah, but there's no kashas on it. But if there's a mufna, once it's a vacant Gzera Shavah, extra word, so then it follows through even if there's a kasha on it. I was telling you, I wanted to make this link, even though they see that you might say logically it's not comparable, but I'm saying I mean to connect it. So the Gemara says there must be that there's a mufna, and the Gemara says yes, it is an extra word over there. La'aye, the word la'aye means in truth. It's not a regular word, but the word la'aye means in truth. Afnei mufna, it is available, it is vacant.
Excuse me, Rebbe.
Yes,
Could you I'm hearing extra noise. Can you mute? Thank you.
It's muted already?
Now it's muted. Thank you.
But everybody's muted already? Or I stopped to do something?
The noise stopped. Thank you.
Okay. So the Gemara now finishes off the drasha. Mechti, or this was Mechti, let us analyze. Chamisha kroi ksivi b'malacha. It says 5 times not to do malacha. Rashi says that 4 times it says don't do malacha. 1 time it says it's a chiv kares. And you don't need so many psukim. It says again and again, don't do malacha on Yom Kippur, don't do malacha on Yom Kippur, don't do malacha, don't do malacha. If you do malacha, it's chiv kares. It could have said usually it says don't do it. Then it says a punishment. You don't need more than all that. You have a lot of extra psukim. Why do you need so many psukim? Chad lazara, the amona. The chad lazara, the lily. First of all, it divides between the night and the day, which is a chiddush. Usually you would say don't do malacha means the whole 24-hour period. But here the Gemara says you might think after the day, not the night. The eve of Yom Kippur says no, the eve also. And Taisus Shem talks about when do you need a pasuk for the night and the day. But here it says two psukim, and then also about the onish, chad the onish di mama, chad the onish di lelia. Even though it doesn't say covers 2 times, it only says covers 1 time. But Rashi says that if you have extra psukim, you're allowed to also transfer it to whatever you need it for. So we have 2 psukim to say that you're not allowed to do malacha both in the day and the night. You're not, and there's chorus for the day and the night, but you have 1 extra pasuk. You have everything already. So 1 extra pasuk. And 1 pasuk is extra to make that it should be a Gzera Shabbat link, which is available. It's unnecessary. So that's the end of the brisa. Again, just to zoom out a second, the kasha of today, the whole sugya so far, a lot of words, but the sugya was, where is there a negative commandment about the mitzvah of affliction? It says, afflict oneself. You should afflict yourself. If you don't afflict yourself, it's chayiv kares. But it's only a positive commandment. Afflict yourself. It doesn't say do not. So where's the Azara? Rish Lakish said, because there's no way to say it. Technically, there's no way how to have expressed itself to say a negative commandment. But if Rashi found a way to say it, they could have said, do not veer from being afflicted. So there's a way to say it. Now the Gemara is a brisa and says it learns out from the fact that it says by malacha 5 times, 5 psukim about malacha. 4 would have been enough, because it would have been do not do malacha in the day, do not do malacha in the night. If someone does malacha in the day, he's chayiv kares. If someone does malacha in the night, he's chayiv kares. That would have been enough. There's 1 extra pasuk. The 1 extra pasuk is for a link to make Gzera Shabbat to the mitzvah of Inui, and whatever applies to malacha also applies to Inui. By malacha, we find that there's a commandment that says do not, so that also applies to Inui also. So there's also a negative commandment. That was the second question.
Is this the final one?
That's the second one. Rish Lakish had his pshat that he said it's impossible to have said it. There's a kasha on that. The Brisa says this is the drasha. Now the Gemara goes, there can be another couple of drashas. One towards the bottom, the very Rabbi Shmuel, 3 lines to the bottom, the very Rabbi Shmuel Tana. The Brisa and the Yeshiva of Rabbi Shmuel said, Nema kan inu v'nema lahalan inu. There's a Gzera Shabbat someplace else. Rashi says, the Gemara doesn't spell it out where it's from. Rashi says it's talking about rape. By rape, it says, what's the pasuk? Rashi brings a number of days. He says, if somebody rapes a married woman, it says the word over there, inu, that he afflicted her. So it's a Gzera Shabbat. Over there it says a negative commandment. Ma lahalan lo anash elam ken his here. Afkan lo anash elam ken his. Let's not go over there. There's a negative commandment that it's also to have relations with a married woman. Then it says also there's a punishment. So too, this Gzera Shabbat link is also going to say that there's a negative commandment over here also. So that was the third drasha. The next one. We learn out that Yom Kippur is called Shabbat Shabbason. It says Yom Kippur is called Shabbat Shabbason, and every Shabbos Bereishis. Shabbos Bereishis means every Shabbos, every the 7th day is called Shabbos. Shabbos Bereishis because it means the Shabbos of creation. So over there, there's not a Gzera Shabbat from Yom Kippur to Shabbos. That's like by Shabbos it says, do not do malacha. If someone does malacha, it's chayiv misa. So too, the Gzera Shabbat tells us that the negative commandment applies here also.
Okay, so the Gzera Shabbat is still the 5th, but that 5th mention of...
No. We finished
What
already.
are we talking about now?
Well, different rushes. There are 5 different rushes. The ones that are highlighted, if it helps anything, the highlighted is the different rushes over there. They're different. Okay, it's not so highlighted, but
No, I wasn't looking.
okay. But that's first we had Rish Lakish, then we had the big brisa that said the extra time that it says not to do malacha, and then 3 lines to the bottom, Rabbi Shmuel says Gzera Shabbat from raping a married woman, and now Rav Achabar Yaakov says it's Gzera Shabbat from a regular Shabbos, and now one more drasha is going to be. So far, is good. They're very short now. No, forget about that. Don't forget about it, but put that in the freezer. That's the brisa. Now, Bishmol says another drasha. Rav Achabar Yaakov says another drasha.
What
Rav
are we
Achabar
trying
say
to
another.
prove is what I'm asking. What's the Bryce trying to tell us?
We're all looking for one thing. We're looking for what is the negative commandment of affliction on Yom Kippur. That's the whole subject. That's today's subject. Someone asks you, what did you learn today? You come out of here, what did you learn today? So we're learning about where does it say is negative commandment that you're not allowed to eat. So you say, of course, what do you mean? You're not allowed to eat Yom Kippur. So you tell them, it doesn't say that. It's a positive commandment. Where's their negative commandment? So he's going to be all excited. Where's their negative commandment? So you have 5 answers. One is because it couldn't have said it, because there's no way technically how to have said a negative commandment about affliction. The Gemara, maybe there's a kasha on that. And then the Gemara says that 5 times that it says don't do malacha by Yom Kippur, one of them is extra. So it's a Gzera Shava link between Inui and malacha. The next rush is because Gzera Shava Inui to the Inui that it says by raping a married woman. Over there it says lo saseh. So the Gzera Shava link says also lo saseh over here. The next one is a Racha Yaakov, Gzera Shava link to Shabbos Bereshis, that over there says do not do malacha. If you do malacha, there's a punishment. Here too, there's a punishment also. We have already 4 drushes. And now the next one, Papa Amar, the last words, and go on to the next page. Papa Amar. He gufa Shabbos Ikri. Now we can get bigger again. Now we can make it bigger now. We should have told the printer that.
Wasn't thinking about
Okay. The answer is he gufa Shabbos Ikri. That not that it's a Gzera Shava between Shabboson and Shabbos Bereshis. But Yom Kippur is called Shabbos. You don't have to be so fancy. Yom Kippur is called Shabbos, and since by Shabbos it says Lo Saseh, so also by Yom Kippur the Lo Saseh also applies. Dechsiv Tishbesu Shabbatchem. It doesn't mean the pasuk of Shabbos Shabboson. Rashi's bothered. Why doesn't the Gemara continue with the pasuk of Shabbos Shabboson? He says because Shabbos Shabboson is not going on the day; it's going on the menucha. It's supposed to be rest, but not that it's going on the day. But here, Tishbesu Shabbatchem, that Yom Kippur is called the Shabbos. So once it's called the Shabbos, so then by Shabbos we know that there is a negative commandment. So also by Yom Kippur there's a negative commandment. This was the 5th and final drasha. We have 5 drashas. Where is there a negative commandment by Yom Kippur? The Gemara asks, the Korah said the Gufa, the other. Why does a Papa not say like Rachel Yaakov? Rachel Yaakov said Gzera Shava between Shabbos Shabboson and Shabbos Bereshis. So he says a Papa doesn't hold to that. He'd rather use the pasuk which is in internal, not to have to make a link to someplace else. Yom Kippur to a Shabbos Bereshis. He says this pasuk, it says right here Shabbos Tishbesu Shabbatchem. So that's understandable why he'd rather his drasha. Why doesn't Rabbi Yaakov hold like a Papa that it says Tishbesu Shabbatchem? Isn't that a nice thing? If you're saying anyway that Shabbos means whatever it says Shabbos, it means a lo saseh. So here also it says by Yom Kippur it says Tishbesu Shabbatchem. It's called Shabbos. So why doesn't he get to a Papa? The Gemara says he needs it for a different drasha. He needs the pasuk of Tishbesu Shabbatchem for a different brayso. It says we're going on a boat on a cruise a little bit. We'll come back in a couple of lines where we're going to get to Tishbesu Shabbatchem. But the pasuk reads that's the pasuk. It says you should afflict yourselves on the 9th of the month from evening to evening, which the Pashut means from the 9th in the evening. When it says in the Torah you should afflict yourself on the 9th, the 9th in the evening. It doesn't mean the eve of the 9th. It means the 9th after the 9th, right? Not we now, the Jewish people, when we say on the 9th, by Erev, we mean usually the eve before. But here, like Leil Shabbos, it means the night before. But here, the pasuk is going that you should afflict yourselves on the 9th, by Erev. May Erev ad Erev. So the Pashut in the pasuk means on the 9th at night. It means the night after the 9th, which is the 10th in the Jewish calendar. But the Gemara is darshaning that it's mashma something about the 9th also. It's not a regular way to talk, to say that he should afflict himself on the 9th in the night. It should have said on the 10th or the eve of the 10th. So that's the Gemara's drush over here. It says you should afflict yourself on the 9th. Does it mean you fast on the 9th? You should not fast on the 9th? No, at night. Maybe you mean only at night you start to fast. It does say on the 9th. So how do you reconcile the pasuk on the drash level? Okay, it said you're supposed to start the fast earlier. This is what we call the Amar Aleph Tosefes. From the mundane onto the holy. You start fasting a little bit earlier. So on the Amar Aleph, he said that there's no lo saseh, there's no chorus, but here it says there is a mitzvah saseh. It's only before Yom Kippur. You're supposed to start earlier. How do you know you're supposed to also by the exit, by the Yom Kippur is leaving, you're supposed to continue fasting after Yom Kippur is over? That's the pasuk it says. So it says from night to night till the next night. So it means also into the next night. Into the night of the 11th also you're supposed to fast. they changed their gears at the Shabbos. Shabbos is Menayin. How do you know Shabbos also there's a mitzvah to Sefer Shabbos? Everybody knows that Shabbos, you're not supposed to go to the last second. You're supposed to make it earlier. To Sefer Shabbos, both before and after. How do you say in the Zmiris? That you start earlier and you end later. So where does it come from? This pasuk, even though it's talking about Yom Kippur, but it's an extra pasuk to tell you that on Shabbos also you're supposed to make Tosefes. Still not when we're talking about Yom Kippur. Now it says also on Shabbos. In the Ela Shabbosos, Yom Tov Menayin. Yom Tov also there's a din to add on before and after. All these psukim are coming to be marred, but also for Shabbos and Yom Tov. So the Gemara, just to jump back a second, the Gemara wanted to know that according to Rav Papa said this Shabbat tells you that Yom Kippur is called Shabbos and they ought to learn out the Lo Saseh. The Gemara wanted to know.
Yom Tov, just like Yom Kippur and Shabbos.
Why not Yom Tov? How about Yom Tov?
Are we interested in Yom Tov at this point? I thought the whole questions are on
The Brisa says there's a mitzvah. The Brisa says there's a mitzvah of the Tosefes Yom Tov also. But Yom Tov also, when it comes to Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot, you're supposed to start earlier and then later. Just to zoom out, the Gemara wanted to know what does Rav Yaakov do with the pasuk of Tisbushu Shabbat? He doesn't use it to tell you that it's Shabbos to learn on the Lo Saseh. The answer is he uses it to tell you this drush of Tosefes Shabbos and Yom Tov. Not only Yom Kippur has a Tosefes, also Yom Kippur, Shabbos and Yom Tov also has a Tosefes. So the pasuk is taken already. Okay, it's not Kol Mokom Shenema Shavos. Whenever it says some kind of lesson of Shabbos, you're supposed to add on from the mundane to the holy. So we have already 5 drushes to tell you how you know the Lo Saseh. There's a negative commandment by the Inui of Yom Kippur. We also got some extra credit about Tosefes Inui, Tosefes Malacha on Shabbos, on Yom Kippur, Shabbos, and Yom Tov. And the Brisa over here said that this pasuk tells you about Tosefes, a mitzvah saseh. But now the Gemara says, "V'tana the etzem." Rashi says of Shad over here that the Bryce and Naman the big Bryce and Naman the big Bryce and Naman that we learned, the Gezer Shabbat came out etzem. So he says over there that there's no chorus on Tosefes Inui, on Tosefes Malacha, and there's no negative commandment on that Tosefes either. That was a big Bryce. It said in the narrow lines. It wasn't so narrow, but before I got to the real wide lines in Naman Aleph, we could jump there a second. Not so hard to jump there. This Bryce over here, before it gets to the wide lines, it said that there's no chorus and there's no negative commandment about Tosefes Malacha or Tosefes Inu. About adding on the extension of Yom Kippur before and after, there's no chorus and no Lo Saseh before and after.
Meaning that it's good to do, but
so that's what Rashi says. Rashi says, since it says that there's no chorus and there's no negative commandment, that and the pasuk has to go out of its way to say Be'etzem Hayom Hazeh on the very day. That implies that there is a mitzvah to do it, just as not so chomer that it's a Lo Saseh and chorus. So therefore, the Gemara feels that alone would have been enough of a source to say that there's a mitzvah to add on to Yom Kippur before and after for Inoi, for Malacha. So you don't need the pasuk of Tishbushu Shabbatchem. That's the Gemara's kasha now. To jump back to us now.
So it should be over a law.
No, it'll be aseh. It'll be aseh, but it wouldn't be a lav and it wouldn't be chorus. The Brisa Naman Aleph says there's no chorus and there's no lav for the Tosefes. And Rashi says, but you could imply from that there is a do it because there's no lav and it's a mitzvah saseh, but it's not a lo saseh and it's not chorus. And the Gemara feels that you don't even need a pasuk to tell you to do it. If it says there's no chorus and there's no lo saseh, we can apply that there is a mitzvah saseh even without saying it. That's the Rashi learns over here. They say the Rambam might argue on Rashi because the Rambam seems to hold there's no mitzvah of Tosefes Shabbos. And the Gemara says, but he also agrees that one of there is because the whole mitzvah that talks about Tekiyas, they used to make Tekiyas Erev Shabbos, like we have the sirens, and they used to do it also earlier in the day. So he says that there is a mitzvah of Tosefes Shabbos Midrabanan. But we're going with Rashi over here. Rashi says that Al Gemara holds that if it says there's no chorus and there's no negative commandment, by default, it means to say that there is a mitzvah saseh. And that's the more kasha now. The Tana, the etzem, my hypothetical lechodesh, my overlay. The Bryce and Amalal doesn't need Rashi over here because he has already a source that there's a mitzvah saseh to have Tosefes because it says that there's no chorus and there's no lav. So by implication, it means that there is a mitzvah saseh. So what do you do with this pasuk of petition lechodesh? The whole pasuk is extra. The answer is we brought lechidatani. There's also a famous Brysa. He needs it for the following Brysa lechidatani chi barav midifti. Like Chiv Rav Midifti said over Brisa, the Chiv Rav Midifti, it says V'nisim Esnaf Shosechem B'Tisha, the same pasuk as I brought before. The Chiv B'Tisha Mesanin, you fast on the 9th. Elo B'Asa Mesanin, you fast on the 10th. Elo Malacha Kalochel B'Shosa B'Tshi, Ma'ala Lavakasav Kilu Mesanin Tshi B'Asiri. You're supposed to not eat. You're supposed to eat on the 9th, and that's also called fasting. Why is it called fasting? Why she says that you should on the 9th you should be able on the 9th take care that you should be able to fast. So how do you do that? By eating. In order that you should be able to fast on the 10th, make sure that you eat on the 9th. So that's also you get credit for fasting if you eat on the 9th, because you're making yourself able to fast on the 10th. It comes on the 10th and he's not able to fast. He'll have to eat. So eat on the 9th. You shouldn't have to fast. You shouldn't have to eat on the 10th. So we finished the sugya. Just to zoom out, we had everybody agrees that there's a negative commandment for Yom Kippur, even though who says maybe not. Everyone takes on there's a negative commandment, and therefore maybe it's to get to Malchus or Korban. Korban surely there is, and the Gemara has 5 drushes, trying to zoom out. One was Rish Lakish said it's impossible to say a negative commandment, but the Gemara had a kash on that. Then the Gemara said this etzem, that it had a Gzera Shava between Malacha and Kares, and it says 5 times extra. It says 5 times this of doing Malacha on Yom Kippur. You don't need so many times. One of them is extra. 2 for the day and the night, the Issa, 2 for the day and the night of Kares, one of them is extra. So you learn out this Gzera Shava to say that there's also a Losa say for Inui. After that, the Gemara had a Gzera Shava to Inui, that it says by rape, that is a Losa say. Then there's a Gzera Shava, Shabbat, did I skip anything? I don't think so. And then there's a Gzera Shava that says the Shabbos. And then if Papa said that it says Tishbishu Shabbat, it also means Shabbos is called like Shabbos Bereshis. After that, the Gemara said that there's also a drasha to say about Tosefes Shabbos, a mitzvah say, and at the end the Gemara says that a different price holds that there's a mitzvah to eat on the 9th in order to be able to fast on the 10th. The Gemara continues. The Mishnah said if someone eats something which is not edible, it's not chayiv. If someone chewed pepper, it doesn't mean a green pepper, a red pepper, it means English pepper. It means spice, the spice of pepper. So that's not called edible food. So if somebody chewed pepper on Yom Kippur, he's potter because it's not called edible food. Kazan Vila, if somebody chewed ginger, also not edible. Yom Kippur potter. The Gemara at this point doesn't know if it means that it's moist or it's dried. We'll get to there soon. So far it says these things are not edible food. Meisfed, Mazakasha from a price that it says that it is edible food. It says it says by the mitzvah of Allah, it says that for 3 years you're not allowed to benefit from the fruit. So it says it's fruit. Now, the pasuk starts off, when you come to Eretz Yisrael and you plant a fruit tree. Now, that's extra. It doesn't say fruit tree. If it says, come to Eretz Yisrael and plant a tree, so don't eat its fruit. It's going to say right away fruit. So the fact that it says eitz free, eitz machol, that's extra. Any of the issue eitz machol, if it talks about eating not using the fruit, obviously it means that it's a fruit tree. So why does it say the word eitz machol? So it's an extra word. Why does it say the word a fruit tree? Coming to remember even a kind of a tree which its bark tastes similar to its produce.
That's
what is that?
The Ma'aser Bereishis. That's in the beginnings of time.
But here they didn't listen. But here some of them did listen. As for gold, so here it says that it's palpulin. If your own merit is a palpulin, here it says that it's pepper. Pepper is 8 tam or period shabbat. Here it says that a pilpulin is similar 8 tam or period shabbat. What do you see from that? That pilpulin is chayv and orla. That pepper is chayv and orla. Now, for being a spice alone, it's not chayv and orla. Spices are not chayv and orla. The fact that Eretz Yisrael can produce pepper is also a chiddush because it doesn't naturally grow in Eretz Yisrael. Pepper does not naturally grow. Here it says, the Medrash says that Shlomo HaMelech knew how to plant pepper in Eretz Yisrael. That Eretz Yisrael has the source of all the lands. The Medrash makes a big thing out of this. That Eretz Yisrael is the source of any good in the whole world, and therefore Shlomo HaMelech knew where in Eretz Yisrael is the artery or of earth that is the source that goes to Kush. Kush is a place where over there they grow pilpulin, and he knew how. What? I think so. And he knew how to plant it in Eretz Yisrael. That's the side point about the Shabbat of Eretz Yisrael. Ein Eretz Yisrael chaser klum. Eretz Yisrael has everything. It's a Medrash. If you want the source, it's in Koheles. Where is that? Koheles, Medrash Koheles, Rabbah, Beis Zayin, 2:7. Over there it says that he knew how to plant in Eretz Yisrael. He knew how to plant in Eretz Yisrael those things which grow in India. He knew anything goes any place in the world. He knew where to plant it in Eretz Yisrael. So that's the point that it's a chiddush. But what the Gemara wants here is that it says it's chayv orla. Why is it chayv orla? It must be that it's edible. If it wouldn't be edible, it wouldn't be chayv orla. And I just point out that the fact that it's used as a spice is not a reason to be chayv orla. Something which is only usable as a spice is not chayv orla. So here that it says that it's chayv orla, it must mean that it's edible as is. So that means that it's edible food. Why are you saying it's not edible? No kasha. When we said it's not chayv on Yom Kippur, is only when it's dried out. When it's first moist, it could be both of them, pilpulin and also zangvil, ginger. Both of them are edible when they're moist. It's very strong. You're right. It's very strong, but it's still called edible. Once it's dried out, then it's not edible. So back just to edit what we said before. We said that if somebody he chewed pepper or ginger on Yom Kippur, he's part only if it's dry. If that's not edible food. But if it will be moist, then it will be chayav on Yom Kippur.
Excuse me, where did the brisa end? Where's the end of the brisa?
Which brisa?
The Meisvei. The Meisvei?
Yes, L'Sechsech Kolba, right here, L'Sechsech Kolba. Then
Thank you. Yeah, right before the Lokasha. Thank you.
Yeah, Lokasha b'tifta b'bishta. Nu Gemara. Amalei v'vina l'mirema. V'amar Rav Nachman hai himelasa da'asim yibeyin dui shaya u'mavach alei bar piyadama. Himelasa, Rashi says, is some kind of a medicine, and it has spices mixed in with other things. So it says it comes from Hodu, probably Hindu, it probably Hodu from India. So it says that it's mutter to eat, and you say bar piyadam on it. Rashi says that the fact that it's mutter to eat, that's going to be the point of the Gemara. They cook it in India over there. They got this medicine from India, whatever they come, however they got it, but it was cooked. Himlus, first wide line. How do I pronounce it? Malta, Himlus, how do I pronounce it?
Oh, that's from the Himalayas.
It's kind of a food. Rashi says it's a kind of a medicine over here that they mix in spices and other things. So it says it's mutter. It's mutter. Now, it has no much gach over there. There's not much giach over there in India. How do you know it's kosher? Because the things that they don't put in non-kosher, they use non-kosher pots. But that the Rashi says that's no tam lepgam. That's not a problem. But the question is that they cook it, and when they cook it, so it's bishul goyim, bishul akum, that you're not allowed to eat a food which was cooked by a goy. The reason why it's mutter is because it's called nechal k'mo chai. There's something which is edible raw, then we don't care that the goy cooks it. Of course, it should be kosher. But if it's kosher, the fact that he cooked it is only yosef for something which is not edible raw. But if it's edible raw, nechal k'mo chai, it's not yosef for bishul akum. Here it says that it's mutter. This himla says mutter, and the kasha that has these spices, maybe that's ginger over there, and it says that it's mutter. Why is it mutter? So you see that it's called edible raw. Lo kasha abritif tabrivish, the same terrace. That if it will be moist, then it's edible, and when it's dried out, then it's not edible. If they would have made this medicine after it was already not edible, maybe then it is also because he cooked a non-edible thing. But if it's edible, so then it's if it's moist, it's still edible. So the same thing as I said before.
Way around. It's cooking it when it's dry, so you're giving green
So maybe they cooked it when it was moist. So.
No, I'm saying that went out of the gather because it's dried, but by cooking it, it's metaken.
Are you saying that no?
It changes. It
Yeah,
changes
I think
from dry to wet because he's cooking.
So is that a reason that it should be also
yeah,
mutter?
no, then it should be out. Then it is edible.
No,
The moment it becomes cooking.
you're saying that it's not called edible. If a guy cooks something, it's also to eat. It's only mutter if it was edible raw, edible without his cooking. So you're asking a question: what if he had something which is edible moist, and then it became dry, and you can't eat it, and then the guy cooked it? Is that also or not? Is it called that it's edible? It wasn't edible. So I don't know. I don't know how to answer the question, but I just would say I would avoid the question. Maybe over there they cooked it when it was still moist, so he didn't do anything. Maybe. But as far as Agamar is concerned, that eating on Yom Kippur, these things which are pilpulin and zagvil is only putter if it was dry. If it will be moist, then it's a good food. Then you b'chayv on Yom Kippur.
I understand that pilpul petev is a tree.
It says that it's a tree. That's the chayv orla. It says the chayv orla. Tanarabban, top line. If somebody eats the leaves of reeds, that's not called food. Putter, it's not called edible food. But if he eats the tendrils of a grapevine, when it starts growing tendrils in order to catch onto things, that's called lubim. So that is chai because it's considered a food. We had it yesterday also. We said yesterday about Sashama and Lubek Fanim, it is considered edible food. Only if it's less than 10 days old. Once it's more than 10 days old, so then it already gets hard. It's like wood, and it's not anymore considered food. It's only food within the 10 days. We're talking about Yom Kippur over here. So if it blossomed from Rosh Hashanah, that is less than 10 days old, then it's still considered a food. Once it's earlier, then it would have been more than 10 days old, so then it wouldn't be considered a food. Not only 10 days, even 30 days. If it's less than 30 days old, it's still considered a food. That it's a question of 10 days. We said before that it's not considered food. Same thing word for word, that it's only considered food if it's less than 10 days old. Once it's 10 days old, more than 10 days old, then it's not considered food anymore. The last thing it says, just that Moris Potter, if somebody drinks things that are not considered drinkable, like brine, says Potter.
Excuse me, is this things that are potter? Is it potter avalos?
Yeah, sure, you're not allowed to do it. Right, sure, you're not allowed to drink it, but if you drank it, it's not considered, you're not allowed to drink these things on Yom Kippur. But if he did, so then he's potter. The Moshe going to say is now opening the last Gemara. It says here about brine. Brine is not considered drinkable. How about vinegar? A chometz chayiv. Our Mishnah, the fact that it didn't say bigger chiddush, and even vinegar, our Mishnah knows that vinegar is considered drinkable. It will be chayiv if somebody drank vinegar. Masis the Mani Rebbe, our Mishnah goes according to Rebbe because they're going to argue. The Tani Rebbe Yomer, chometz meishav as nefesh. Rebbe says chometz does give yishuv adas. It revives a person, so it's a good thing. Chometz. And the Tanakama says not. That chometz is not. So not called yishuv adas. So it'll be machlokes. Tanakama would say that chometz is not chayiv on Yom Kippur. Rebbe says that it is, and our Mishnah seems to hold like Rebbe. Darash of Gidl bar Menashe mibirid in Arash ein lachat Rebbe ki Rebbe. Rav Gidl bar Menashe from this city, he said the lach is not like Rebbe, and if someone would have drank chometz, he's potter. If someone would have drank vinegar on Yom Kippur, he's potter.
They don't know like Rebbe.
Right. We don't pass like it says. The Mishnah
I would
says
like
so.
to drink vinegar on Yom Kippur.
Oh, look at the story. L'shana nafki kuli yama mazgul b'shas uchala. The next year, after the Gidl bar Menashe darshan this, the whole city went out and they had diluted vinegar and they drank on Yom Kippur. They came to Yom Shul. Everybody came with a bottle of vinegar, diluted vinegar. Everybody's drinking. Shamar Gidl Vikber. If Gidl heard that's what happened, he was very angry. Amar emadami and the yevad lachatchila miyam. It just said if he's potter. I didn't say allowed to do it. That's the question. It doesn't say mutter. I said potter. You're not allowed to do it. And second of all, emadami and porta tuba miyam. I said a little bit. Maybe it means that a little lugma. But if he drank more, I also hold that it's going to be chayiv. And emadami and chayiv. Mazig miyam. I said if it's raw vinegar, but not diluted vinegar. So they chayiv covers these people. They have to get carbon chatas. They made a mistake. They drank vinegar on Yom Kippur. So surely you're not allowed to. So that's the end of the sugya. We're 1 minute late. Just to sum up, that Yom Kippur is considered also lo saseh. The sugya before we spoke about that achilu shti is not mistar if even not according to Yeshua. Second, because it doesn't give satisfaction. The second, the Mishnah spoke about the Gemara spoke about that. It's considered a lo saseh. It's chayiv chatas. Our Gemara speaks about chayiv chatas, and we said malchus probably also malchus and korban and koresh. That even though it doesn't say openly, Yom Kippur is considered a negative commandment. We have 5 drushes for that. Also, we came across about Tosefes. There's a mitzvah to have Tosefes before and after Yom Kippur. Shabbos, Yom Tov, everything before and after, both Malacha and Inui on Yom Kippur. But there's no lav, there's no chorus, it's only a mitzvah saseh. Maybe some argue say that there's a Rambam might say not, the Maskana only in second brisa. And second brisa says that there's a mitzvah to eat on the 9th day in order to be able to fast on the 10th day. After that, the Gemara said about foods that are not edible, is butter, like pilpul and zangu, if they are dry. But if they're moist, then they are considered. Alikanim is also not considered edible, but lulaik fanim, if it's less than 10 days old, it is considered. And then about chometz, machlokas, he says you don't pass like Rebbe, so maybe he'll be potter, but potter, and only if it's a little bit, and also if it's not diluted. If you have these things diluted,
Well, diluted means it's got white water.
that's water, and so then it's surely going to be chayiv. Then it's surely it may be chayiv. Yashikoach, everybody, and we'll go back in about a minute or so. I'm sorry about we're a little bit late. And we finished the Levada, man. Let's tomorrow. Yashikoach, everybody.